Welcome to another episode of Growth Hacker TV. I'm Bronson Taylor, and today I have Ann Ward with us. Ann, thanks so much for coming on the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Ann, you are the co-founder and managing director at CircleClick. So tell our audience, what is CircleClick?
Well, CircleClick is a digital agency based in San Francisco. We provide all things web to our clients, from website development all the way to promotion, helping build what we call lead machines, helping clients in order to scale their businesses with leads.
Yeah, so let's talk about those lead machines a little bit, because that's instantly of interest, I'm sure. I noticed on the website, it says a few times that you're in the lead generation business. What's the difference in just buying traffic and really generating high quality leads? How do you create lead generation machines?
Well, that's a great question. So it's different for everyone. Every business has its own set of challenges, and to some companies, a lead is considered a newsletter sign up. And for certain clients, a lead is an actual sale. They want to see an actual sign up, for a SaaS company. They want to see, user signups, user adoption. So it's way more than just sending traffic. It's sending the right traffic and measuring which traffic converts. So a huge part of it is in the measurement of what you're doing, so that you can repeat what works and avoid what doesn't.
Now, on your site, it also mentions that you buy ads for your clients on a lot of the different social platforms, but you also say that you try to buy ads that make sense for that client. So talk to us about maybe some of the different platforms that you buy ads on, and what kinds of businesses should really be considering those channels as opposed to the other ones.
Yeah, so I think it's, some things are kind of logical by nature to understand. We work with a lot of B2B clients. That's my specialty. And so putting those B2B clients on Facebook doesn't make sense. Twitter, LinkedIn are major services that make a lot of sense for us. But more recently, we've stumbled into something that's really hot right now called native advertising.
Okay.
And native advertising is a good fit for companies that have a lot of good content and want to be recognized for that rather than ads, because certain segments don't necessarily trust traditional paid search. Like a developer tends to not click on a Google pay-per-click ad. They will, however, click on a Twitter ad.
Okay.
I don't know why, but,
Yeah.
but so native advertising is a whole new trend in the industry, where basically you're producing content and pushing it out in that manner versus just running straight up ads. A good example of that is BuzzFeed. I think everybody loves and knows BuzzFeed and the lists.
I'm ashamed to say I follow them on Twitter, and I click on their links more than I want to admit.
Right, but they're definitely the poster child for native advertising, because you're never going to see a banner or skyscraper ad on that site, because they've determined that that's not how their users want to be fed content. So they work with big brands, but they don't necessarily have what's called a banner or traditional clickable item. What they do is they convert and sculpt traffic based on the content that they provide. It's a little more subversive, but it's very effective.
So how is the company being integrated? Are they writing posts about that company and just not telling you that it's an ad? Or what is the native ad on BuzzFeed? Because I'm not even aware of it, to be honest.
Well, so I think the other term for it would be advertorial. So you'll see the presence of big brands, but they won't necessarily, they might just be pictured. They may not necessarily be, they may not specifically have anything clickable. It's a branding play, a traffic play. But it's really, I think memes have been used quite heavily in that regard. A brand will put up a meme about themselves around the internet with the hope of, hey, you're going to talk about us in social media.
Gotcha.
So it's definitely a marketing play, but it's been for many a successful one.
Yeah, now it doesn't seem like, and maybe I don't know, that there's a marketplace to go and buy native advertising. Is it more just business development? You have to go out and find places that are willing to accept native advertisers? Or is there some kind of platform where you can go and look, here's a list of all the publishers that are open to this kind of arrangement? How do you actually, secure those kind of buys for your clients?
there are definitely platforms that only provide native advertising.
Okay.
If you search for it, you'll find them. There are tons of them out there now. And they're running through bigger networks, but they're doing it with a slightly different approach. So it's easy to find someone to broker that for you if you don't have the resources to do it yourself.
Gotcha. Is there any like clear kind of industry winners right now of like this is a platform where all the big brands play there, you know?
Well, I'll tell you my personal favorite is Thought Leader, and that's leader without the E. Okay. Thought Leader does a great job. They've done great things for Virgin America and some other great big brands. And I definitely recommend checking them out and just kind of studying what they're doing because it's really fascinating.
Do you have to be a huge brand with a lot of budget to go to Thought Leader, or is there any room to play? Okay, so you have to be. All right.
Yeah, they're the Cadillac. They're definitely the big player. There are a lot of smaller ones, but they're the only ones I feel like are going to be leaders in the industry.
Yeah, no, that's great. So let me give you a chance to brag a little bit on CircleClick. What are some of the biggest wins that you guys have had? And even more so, you know, what'd you do to kind of achieve those so we can kind of peek inside of your playbook for a moment?
Well, thank you. I think biggest success would be this year. I hired my 5th employee, and we're going to be 4 years in business, which is, to me, a big success because, you know, so many startups don't make it past 6 months or a year. And we actually, late last year, opened CircleClick Labs. And I'm happy to say we actually have 2 different mobile apps in development, and I'm really proud of that because we're doing this completely bootstrapped. There's no venture capital, and I don't plan on taking it. I may change my mind, but for right now, it's more important to me to have creative control over what I'm doing versus taking the money. But watch me eat my words in 6 months.
Yeah, who knows, right?
But I'm very proud to say that we're expanding rapidly, and you know, clients are staying with us, and it's a great situation to be in.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you're doing explicitly for your clients that have really helped them? Do you have any kind of case studies of like, we did this for this client, and you know, here's what happened? Anything like that?
Oh, sure. I think a great example would be Inc. Magazine. As one of our clients, we did the social media promotion for them for the Inc. 500, 5000, and continue to be a consultant to them and their social media.
So what specifically do you do for them? You know, you say social media. Are you handling their Twitter, or you know, what are you actually doing?
We don't control the actual accounts, but what we have done in years past is we have promoted the 500, 5000 contest, which is really their biggest promotion of the year, with very targeted traffic in various social media channels. So we were negotiating ad placement for them, working with bigger companies to negotiate getting the best deals for traffic, and then measuring that traffic and making sure that it directly related to people filling out the application.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned you have 2 apps that have come out now from CircleClick. Did I hear that right?
In development.
In development. Okay. Can you talk about those yet, or are they behind closed doors still?
The one I feel okay talking about, because I think something a lot of people are trying to do, and it's really a race, is trying to come up with an app that accurately measures mobile marketing activity and reports better information to people and to small businesses, and allows them to make better decisions on where their marketing dollars are going on mobile. I think there's a definite deficit right now in companies being able to know where their marketing dollars are going. It's kind of a shot in the dark for a lot of them. I mean, mobile analytics on Google has just recently come out, and there are a lot of gaps. And using, you know, certain data that's available to us by the phone, we're developing our own proprietary analytics that should hopefully plug into the bigger platforms.
Yeah. Do you have a name for it yet, so that people in the future watching this can know what to search for in the app stores, or?
You know, I actually don't, and as a marketer, you'd think I would, but I went down that road before with my first app, and I spent all my energy on that. we released an app about 2 years ago called Final Approach, and it was a landing page builder. And we had a huge party and, invited all kinds of press, and then never got out of beta. I probably blew tens of thousands on this thing. And the lesson I took away from that was that is the fun stuff you get to do after.
There you go.
You gotta
save the party till you got something to party about.
Yes, exactly. Save all the fun and the marketing until you have something ready to go.
Yeah, no, that's smart. So there's no name to it, but hopefully there's something good happening that we don't have a brand for yet. Now before, what's that?
Circle Click Labs.
That's right. Yeah, so we'll be able to find it from there, no matter what it's called.
Yes.
Now before Circle Click, when I was looking at your stuff online, it seemed like you focused a lot on SEO, kind of maybe in a previous life. And then I also noticed when I was browsing around that Circle Click has put out a number of press releases. So just, I was wondering, is the press releases that you guys put out a part of an SEO strategy there? Or do you just, like to put out press releases?
Well, if that was just something to do to pass the time, I think I could find ththings that were maybe more fun.
Right.
But my background's actually originally web development, and that's how I got into SEO. And I'm a serial tinkerer, so I like to tinker. And press releases for a while seemed to be a good strategy as part of SEO, but I'm finding over the years it's becoming less and less because I think a lot of other people kind of figured the same thing. And in addition to that, press releases just for the sake of it aren't going to get you anywhere because they don't create credible backlinks.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Some instances you may be better off going with a blog post or something more informal.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great insight. I was wondering because, I haven't really seen anybody execute, a press release strategy really well and then come on here and champion it. So it's good to hear you even saying, well, I might do some other stuff now, just kind of where everything's at. Now, you're also the editor-in-chief of MobileFOMO. So explain the name to us and then tell us what that is.
So MobileFOMO is an online marketing, mobile marketing blog, and FOMO stands for fear of missing out. We noticed that YOLO was a huge trend. The kids are saying online, you only live once, right? FOMO is starting to rise, and I found in just my own experience with clients that there's a hesitation towards mobile. We want to do it, it's that checkbox, but a lot of companies seem to think just, turning on mobile ads in their Google console means they have a mobile strategy, when really it's a lot more complicated than that. So our goal was to provide mobile marketing leadership for small, medium businesses that wasn't intimidating, that took the fear out of it and just gave practical knowledge. No,
that's great. You recently wrote an article about mobile analytics, and now I see why that you're actually developing your own analytics app. But right now, how do you track mobile until your app comes out? I mean, are there any places you go? I mean, do you have to use Google Analytics? Is that kind of the best right now? Or what do you use to do it as of today?
Today I'm using mainly Google Analytics, and they're getting better about giving us more data, but it's really very crude, to be quite honest. I mean, we can tell what kind of devices people are using. We can tell, we can view for ourselves, obviously, how it looks on mobile platforms, but it's interesting when I see companies not taking the time to mobile optimize their sites, that their statistics are always bad. So we can tell kind of rough shot things like how people got there, how long they were there, but we don't really have a good insight into what they're clicking on and why.
Okay, I gotcha. No, it makes sense. You also published an article recently about the real demographics of mobile usage, and it was really interesting. It kind of broke down who's using mobile and kind of how it shakes out, male, female, but then a lot deeper than that. Did anything about that surprise you? Because you work in the industry where you're dealing with mobile all the time. You kind of know what you expected the data to say. Did it say anything you weren't expecting?
I guess I didn't expect it to be so heavily social. I mean, I guess I should have for my own use. But here in Silicon Valley, I mean, we're all talking out of one side of our mouth and, texting on the other side, right? And tweeting and doing all of these things. So I kind of thought we were in a bubble. And what the Pew Research showed was that we're not.
Yeah.
The use case for people with mobile is absolutely social. And I think the big brands have taken notice of that. I didn't put the statistic in there, but I think, or not statistic, but the research in there. But I think big brands like Purina has something like 12 apps right now.
Wow.
Mobile apps, in hopes that you'll be sharing through Instagram and Path and all these other sources. So it really amazed me that this is something that's got cross appeal, across, race, across income, parts of the country. Social is the best possible use right now for mobile for marketers.
Yeah. What were the action items from that study? I look at the statistics, but then it's kind of like, okay, what now? What do I do with that? What advice would you give to companies kind of after they see all those statistics that you've put on your blog there?
Well, as much as everybody should get on mobile or wants to get on mobile, I don't think it's necessarily a have-to-have if in building an app or something, meant to run on the phone, unless you feel like the phone's functionality is important to your business. So if your business has nothing to do with, local search or using the geolocation tools of the phone or functionality like the camera, you may just stick with the web and just optimize for mobile. I wouldn't rush towards building an app unless you're going to be using some feature functionality of the phone itself, because otherwise your users really won't stick with you.
Gotcha. There's no need. There's no real anchor point for why they have to be on it in that experience. Yeah, it makes sense.
Right. They don't use it.
Yes, they don't use it. Yeah. Let me ask you about Twitter cards. Because it seems like they've recently expanded kind of the functionality of Twitter cards. Is that a big thing in marketing, or do people choose just not care?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, again, in the Valley, it's huge because it really helps attach a media experience to your tweets. All you have to do is add some HTML to your pages. You tweet out the link and people get a more media-rich experience, similar to Facebook. I mean, this was really the only advantage in my mind that Facebook had over Twitter for content sharing. And with that removed, it's going to be a field day for marketers because they'll be able to collect better data. They'll be able to, there are a couple different types of Twitter cards. I think there's 6 actually. And so it'll be interesting to see how these different types take off and, which ones are most popular, which ones are most annoying. Because I think there will definitely be winners, and there's a reason they have 6 versus 1 or 2.
Yeah, what's interesting is it almost makes me think that Twitter now is a lot like Tumblr in a sense, only with way larger audience, and way more people using it. Because now when I see a Twitter stream with, these cards in them, and then I look at a Tumblr stream without comments on it, I think, wow, these look very similar now, So which I think is good for Twitter because I've always, liked that experience there. How do you think smart marketers are going to use Twitter cards? I mean, when someone really knows what they're doing, how do you think they're going to try to utilize that technology? Well,
I definitely think this is going to be a field day for e-commerce.
Really? How so?
I think because the gallery and app cards are going to allow for deep linking and deep sharing of content. I mean, we've seen what Pinterest has done for e-com. And so this is like Pinterest on steroids because it's taking advantage of a gigantic user base. We're going to be able to capture more data, and therefore I think more money is going to get spent. And I think, when companies feel like they can measure what's going on, which they'll be able to with Twitter cards, I think that the hesitation to go mobile is going to be removed.
Absolutely. Is there anything else happening in mobile that shouldn't be ignored right now? Is there anything else on the horizon or that you're hearing about or that's already been released that you feel like is going to be big and people need to take notice of it?
Absolutely. There are many things, but I think the biggest one that is on my mind right now is augmented reality.
Really?
Augmented reality and, the combination. I think a company that would develop something that combines proximity with interest is just going to be minting their own money. I think, there are statistics now on mobile use of ads when people are sitting still versus when they're walking, when it's dry outside versus raining. So things that sort of take from reality and augment that experience with convenience, like, oh, it's raining, you're in New York. Well, here's $5 off umbrellas. Whoa.
Yeah.
I think that the company that gets that right is going to be very successful. And there are plenty of players out there that do it for certain segments. But I think, like I said earlier, taking that information available to us with GPS and camera, or not necessarily camera for this, but taking advantage of those features is going to be huge.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Now, as I was reading online, I came across something really interesting. It seems like you have a flair for marketing stunts. So tell me about the recent South by Southwest marketing ploy that you pulled off. What happened there?
Yeah, that was a fun one, I have to say. So I own a house in Austin. I'm originally from there, and renters were just not working out for me, and I didn't renew their lease. And I knew their lease was up March 1st, and South by Southwest starts March 8th. So here, I was feeling sorry for myself that here I had this bad situation. I had to turn around the house and re-rent it before South by, and then I was like, wait a minute. I have housing available to me before the biggest event of the year for the city. I should really rent it out. And that was my initial thought. And then I thought, wait a minute, I have 8 days. I'm not going to completely renovate and furnish a house in 8 days and then charge people and then I'm going to be running a B&B. No. How can I get people in there? But how can I get people in there, but how can I make it benefit me? And then I came up with the contest, pitchmyhouse.com. And it was huge. It's really, I think it's probably the most successful contest we've ever done because we got hundreds and hundreds of entries. We got tons of press mentions. And the contest was very simple. Pitch me on what you can do to help me promote MobileFOMO during South by Southwest and stay at my house for free up to 7 days. Because I knew if I was giving away free housing, I wouldn't get complaints about the fact they were sleeping on air mattresses and cots. Nobody complained. It was great. So the winners of the contest were the editorial staff from FunnyOrDie.com.
Okay, now did you pick them to win because you knew they had reach and an audience, or did they actually give you the best idea of how to pitch MobileFOMO?
They gave me. I think it's both, right? I think the fact that they're willing to pitch me to their followers, which they did, they were willing to cover me and my house throughout the whole festival, and they did. They tweeted about us. They followed our accounts. We gained tons of followers from them. I actually closed a deal at South by Southwest. We got numerous press mentions and, VentureBeat, The Verge, Mashable. We really definitely benefited from it, and we had a great time. We had a great time. As you can imagine, the Funny or Die people were amazing and hilarious and really fun to stay with.
I bet. So you mentioned that this is probably the best contest that you had, so that means you've had other contests in the past. Okay. Do you recommend contests as a strategy for people trying to gain buzz and trying to get exposure?
Absolutely. Because I think we're a nation of dreamers, and I think we all believe secretly that when we enter a contest that we're going to be the winner, and it captures part of your fantasy and your imagination to be a part of something like this. And I've done other contests in the past for clients, but other contests I've done when we first started Circle Click. You remember Cash for Clunkers program in the U.S., the cards? So we did web cash for clunkers and gave away a free website to the winner. And, we were thinking that would result in tons of web leads, but no. It resulted in tons of people who wanted a free site. Yeah. So
let me ask you then, what are the ingredients to a good contest? You ran a few of them. You've kind of seen what blew up and didn't work and what actually did work. Are there any ingredients, commonalities that really make something kind of work for your benefit?
I think the absolute biggest is demand.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Demand. There needs to be demand for what you're offering.
Okay.
Big companies go to a trade show and they say, put a business card in for an iPad or iPod. No. Anybody who wants one has one at this point. That there's no demand for that. Maybe people want free stuff. And I've actually seen people who win these things just sell it. So you're essentially just saying, here, take something. There needs to be demand. Like with Pitch My House, I knew housing was in demand because every year I get asked by tons of people, hey, where do I stay? You're from Austin. So I knew the demand was there and I knew it was in short supply. So if the demand is there for what your contest gives away, it's an easy sell. But if you take something people already have or they're not interested in, it's not going to work. And then also time sensitivity. People tend to put things off as long as they can. That's why I had entries up until the day that the festival started. Some people showed up with nowhere to stay and just figured they'd wing it. But time sensitivity and demand are the two. If you get those two right, it'll really, really take off.
So you mean time sensitivity as in having a deadline or?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Perfect. And how did you initially... Go ahead.
Sorry, I was like somebody, a CPA or somebody saying, I'll do free taxes for you. Well, if that contest runs, in mid-June, who's going to care? But if that ran in early April, I think they'd have more leads than they knew what to do with.
That's a great idea, actually. Yeah, that's great. How did you initially publish the contest? Because it gained a lot of momentum, like you said, with The Verge and Mashable. But my guess is, you didn't go to them initially. They didn't, or did you? I don't know. How did you initially put it out there for people to learn about?
Well, I relied a lot upon my own social network, my own network of trusted friends, and my staff here at Circle Click. We placed it everywhere we could think of where people would be looking for housing. Not like Craigslist, but more like Reddit. Dig. Reddit's actually how Funny or Die found us. Reddit. Okay. And then other people found us through Twitter ads. So when people were tweeting about South by hashtag, there was a chance in certain cities that they would see the ads. So using some smart advertising, I think I spent less than $300 total.
Yeah. No, that's great. And look at all the press you got from it.
Yeah. I was lucky that I just happened to, the stars align, but I definitely think I'm going to do it again next year.
Yeah, well, the stars align for people that try a bunch of stuff because eventually they're going to align,
Right, exactly.
If you never try anything, they're probably not going to align the one time you actually do something. So.
Exactly.
Well, Ann, this has been a great interview. Let me ask you one last question to kind of wrap it up. What's the best advice that you can give to any startup that's trying to grow? They might have a limited budget. They may not have a lot of resources. You've been in that position before, even though you've grown kind of out of it. What's the best advice you have for a growing startup?
I think the first is to be aware of your assets. Focus on what you have going for you. And remember that your time is an asset. I think a lot of startup founders, myself included, don't want to spend the money on a bookkeeper. You don't want to spend the money on having someone answer the phone. You don't want to spend the money on an assistant or whatever. But your focus needs to be working on the business, not in the business. So offloading those things that take up time in your head and space in your head, you have an obligation to get rid of and work towards what your assets are. The other thing is I think there's nothing wrong with trying a few things and then being honest with yourself about what's working and what fails. I think failure can be a good thing because it tells you to change directions. And so being honest with that feedback to yourself and, okay, this isn't working, I'm ready to pivot. That's invaluable in business because I think when businesses really fail, it's when they're not fluid and they don't keep up with demand and they're not facing the fact that something's not working. Denial has got no place in business.
Yeah. You got to be honest with others and honest with yourself about where things are actually at. And if there's a lot of transparency, a lot of honesty, you have a fighting chance of winning. So I totally agree. Well, Ann, this has been great. It's been exciting to kind of learn about some of the things you've done and even more so how you did them. And thanks just so much for taking the time out of your schedule to do this.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.